Okay, good evening. First, thanks for having me. This is kind of the fun part of this project. It was a lot of work to get here, but we broke ground and we're moving on to bigger and better things. So this is an accounting of the first 3 months of the project being under construction. For lack of a better term, it's been an interesting 3 months. Mother Nature was great to us at the beginning, and she's been a little hard on us the last few weeks, but we're getting to it. So on the line with me is Brad Wergens. He is the lead architect on the project for us. He worked through the design process with us, and he also is serving as our contract manager to help us through the build. So I'll try to make this as brief as I can. I've only got 300 or 400 slides, and it should take about an hour, but well, we'll walk through the process. We'll kind of go through start to finish where we're at right now for the first few months. So discussion topics for tonight, we'll go through the project to date. Where are we in the project and how we got there? Progress over the next 3 months. So where are we going here in the next 3 months? And hopefully we'll meet the milestones that we set here, but I think we're definitely on track. And then finally, the not so fun part, but the numbers part of the game. We'll go through the budget. We'll talk about how does the project look to date right now, and then kind of project forward where we're going to go. So progress to date. We'll start with demolition. There were many moving pieces in this. There's 2 phases to this project. If the council recall, the first phase is to get the land cleared to the east of us, and to make sure that we have room for all of the building and area we need to store materials. So in the demolition completed portion of this first phase, we have the NASCO property buildings. If the council recalls, we approved a purchase of the NASCO property, which is east of our lands. And that property, it was purchased later early in the year, and they began tearing buildings down in March. The second thing would be the Quonset hut. That is the galvanized kind of dome-shaped long building that was on the south side of James Place. That is right next to the Fireside Dinner Theater. That building came down. And then on the north shed and the salt shed, which are on the northern side of the property, those buildings are down too. So I can walk you through a pictorial that'll kind of show you where we're at and how we got there. So the first building obviously is the old Union Hall, which was directly adjacent to our back portion of our yard nearest our old salt shed. That Union Hall began to come down right away, I think about the middle of March. And it didn't take long to clear that property. That property cleared pretty quickly. And the other 2 remaining buildings, a dome-shaped Quonset type garage and a storage shed, came down at the same time on that property. This is the Quonset hut, and I'll apologize for this picture. It's a bit grainy and it was quite foggy that day, but the Quonset hut demolition is now completed. That building, again, is right adjacent to the Fireside Dinner Theater. And that is what it looked like after the building came down, which was about a half a day's worth of work. That building came down very, very quickly. So that is the completed demolition. And if the council will recall, this is the area where we plan to put the new salt shed. So here's an aerial photo facing somewhat south and west, overlooking our property. And about the middle of the picture to the left side is our building. You see the blue tank there. That's the office space, the service garage, and our locker room and bathroom building. That building, if the council will recall, will be the last building to come down. That's where we're going to maintain operations for the duration of the construction project. Where you see the equipment moving around in there, that is the remnants of the north shed and a portion of the old salt shed. So that is all down now. That came down again towards the end of March. So progress to date on the construction side of things. Construction's been completed for a portion of the foundation. The first item would be the majority of the building system and component submittals have been reviewed and approved. And the long lead time items, HVAC equipment, electrical equipment, wall panels have all been ordered and are either on site or stored, ready for the project to commence forward. The second thing would be the northwest and south foundation walls have begun excavation and are under construction. The foundation's approximately about 20% complete right now, and I have some pictures to follow that'll show the council exactly where we're at. But the concrete footings and foundations have begun being poured, and there's evidence of those on the site right now. And then finally, the last two items would be the stormwater pond. So as part of this project, the design took into account trying to clean the stormwater prior to placing it in our storm system. That pond is actually rough graded and complete right now to this stage. The salt shed is the final item, and that is 95% complete. We're just waiting on exterior concrete and some finished products for it. And you'll see that in the pictures. So the best news of all, these are the panels for the building. They are sitting horizontal. They're not standing straight up, but they're about 38 feet tall. These panels themselves are complete. There's 72 in all for the exterior of the building. The company that did the manufacturing has those stored in their yard, and they're waiting for arrival. And then you'll see in the timeline, those panels are due to be shipped. And if all holds in the process, the beginning of June, they'll be erecting those panels on the foundation walls. This was the start of the salt shed. This is the footing and beginning of foundation for the salt shed itself. This took place in very, very early April, and you'll see where we're at in the salt shed. So there you have the 8-foot tall concrete walls and the stick-built form on top of that. That building currently is housing roughly about 1,000 tons of salt. So they did move through that very quickly. That's the interior of the building after completion. And this was a big moment in time here for us on this site. This is the main building. This is the 130-foot pour for the footing and foundation of the main building. This is along the north wall on the right side of the picture, and on top of the picture, you'll see the fire lane that exists between our property and the NASCO property. So the brown building is the NASCO property. This is the actual foundation wall itself as it's being poured. So this was again 130 feet of north wall poured several weeks ago, and you'll see as we follow here, these next few pictures show that wall getting to the point of being prepared for backfill. So they have the insulation and the cold weather barrier on the inside of that wall. So the pink side is the inside of our building. And then there is a picture here, again, an aerial view. And I have to thank Chief. They provide the ladder truck for us to go up 107 feet into the air to get some nicer photos of this. And this is the completed rough grading. So the lower left-hand corner of that picture is the pond itself. And this will filter and serve to clean about 75%, 74% of the site. And again, now this is the entire site. So the two smaller buildings you see on the north, kind of the middle right side of the page, those two white buildings with tin roofs, those are the existing facilities that we are still in on the site. The large graded area where you see the equipment operating, that is the interior of the building itself. They're bringing that to subgrade for concrete. And the wall you see on the kind of the bottom half of the page up against that brown building, that is the north wall of the building. There's roughly about 20% of the concrete foundation completed to date. And that is the 95% complete salt shed, which has been a real blessing to have. We had 500 tons of salt and no place to go with it. So it arrived on time and we placed it inside that building. So we now have 1,000 tons prepared for next year. So progress over the next 3 months, the council and the public and myself will expect to see several things and several milestones met. In early June, we expect the foundation to be complete. So the end of May, the beginning of June, our foundation walls will be standing and backfilled, and we'll be preparing to receive the actual tip walls that'll go up, which was the first panel you saw. And in mid-June, we expect those concrete walls and the outer shell of the building to be completed. The contractor has provided some expectation on our part of once the building starts to be erected, barring any poor weather, we should see the building shell go up in about 12 days. That is 72 panels and 72 truckloads. So it should move along quite quickly when we get going. By July, we should see the steel roof structure completed, all steel girders and roofing. And then by August, middle to end of August, we should see the roof structure being completed on that facility itself. So the outer shell, in essence, will be complete at that point, and we can move on to some interior things. I'll give you a quick budget update on this. The budget itself, the construction contract sum, the original contract to the Gilbank Construction came in at $11,544,000. And the council approved in March, they approved the 5% contingency of and the 11 million. So we have a little over $12 million in the original construction contract. Completed to date with materials stored and materials completed on site. We are at about 2 million, just over 2 million, $2.3 million. So approximately 20% of the site is completed, and we're 20% through the contract itself. And this includes all precast wall panels, the salt shed, demolitions, excavations, and HVAC equipment that may be housed elsewhere. This final panel, and it's kind of hard to see with the, see if I can shrink this down here. Bear with me one moment. There we go. Okay. So this final panel, if the council recalls, Andy Selly brought forth before the council during the beginning of this process when we awarded the contract and we began the budget process to do the borrow as part of the 24-25 capital borrow. The investment costs here for this building were laid out by Mr. Selly. So I followed through with the same chart to help the council kind of understand where we are in the budget. So the soft costs at the beginning of this process were all of the items that were unaccounted for in the actual contract to build this facility. Soft costs were things like our original land purchase of the site next to us, the permitting design contract with Angus Young, and construction oversight with Angus Young, also with some utility relocations. During this process, we've had to have We Energies relocate gas and electric lines for us. So that was kind of included in that original soft costs. That estimated cost broke out to a little over $1 million, about $1.2 million. And we have spent to date just over $1 million. We have about $128,000 remaining in that original estimated budget. The building construction costs, again, that's the $12,121,200, and that is including the 5% contingency. To date, we are again at $2,372,686, which puts us about 20% complete on the contract and leaves us just under 10 million to complete the rest of the build. And then furnishings and equipment. So these were all items that were not included in the contractor's responsibility to build the building. These are items that fall on as our responsibility. That would be things like furnishings and equipment for the service bays and locker rooms and such. But one of the items that was, I don't want to say overlooked, but included in the original bid as something that we were providing was the truck wash, the automated truck wash. So if the council recalls at the beginning of this process, we recognized that later in the build or the bid process. And in order to not confuse the process, we came to the council and requested permission to take that as a change order. So we're processing the truck wash separately from the contract, but under the contract as a change order. And that original budget, I think, was about 220,000 estimate, and the actual bid and build costs came in at 170,000. So now it sounds like we're going to get storm. What a way to end! Awesome. So in this process, we're at about 31% of that extra. So that items that were budgeted to have. So we have.
If you don't feel safe, please don't leave the building, okay?
Yeah. So we have all totals in everything in the estimated cost to build this facility with our items supplied was just under $14 million. And we are about 26% through that. And that is tracking pretty well for where we should be. And that's all I have. If there's any questions.